In this video, I'm going to show you how to use an AI agent to help with the intake process of getting new client lead information entirely with no code in Gumloop. So I'm going to show you this flow, and what happens is a new prospective lead submits their lead information on your website. That triggers the flow. We're going to add that lead to an Airtable database automatically, and we're going to draft them an email as well. So let me just demo how this works, and then I'll show you how to do it step by step. So again, it starts with a lead form on your website. So I've got this form on my site pre-filled in with a bit of information, contact info, and then you can't, oh, there it is. What do you need help with? Just, scaling Facebook ads as an example. And you can see my Airtable database right now is empty. My inbox is empty as well. So again, I'm going to use this on Gumloop, and I'm going to submit this form. And what's going to happen in the background is this form is going to go to Gumloop. Okay, that's going to act as the trigger. And then we'll walk through the automation. We're using AI in a couple steps to extract the data. And then we're going to use AI to help write the email. And we're going to send it to Airtable. So once Gumloop has fully processed this information, we'll see the lead info come into Airtable with all of the information, including that additional info. And then when we hop into my Gmail, we can see the lead email follow-up, right? So, we could set this as on a timer, but when the lead submits their information, we can draft an email from our account to go to the lead to acknowledge that they have left their information, so we can follow up with our leads and add them to our database immediately. And I'll just walk you through the flow in Gumloop, and then we can set it up step by step. I do prefer using Gumloop for my automations as opposed to something like N8N or Make.com. I just think it is much more user-friendly and more AI native. So it all starts with a Typeform trigger. Again, I'm going to set up a form in Typeform. I'm going to put it on my website. And then when new leads come to my website, they fill in this information on my form. And that's what gets our automation going. We are going to do a little bit of text manipulation with that. And we're also going to extract the data from the form submission. So we're going to use this AI extract data node to pull out the info, first name, last name, email, all that good stuff. We are going to use an Ask AI node here to draft the email. Okay, so in this example, we're going to send a follow-up or email to our lead after they submit the form. And so I'm prompting this Ask AI node to write a professional email, and we're using the context of the information that was submitted on the form along with, some prompting as well. Then we are doing two actions here. We are going to write that information that we're extracting with AI. We're going to write it to our Airtable database. So whenever we get a new lead, and you can collect whatever information you want, of course, but when we get the new lead, we're going to have all of their information automatically in our leads database inside of Airtable. That's going to write it to Airtable automatically. And we are going to use a Gmail node here to send the email. So we're immediately following up once the lead submits their information. Again, we're going to send all of that context through to Gmail. There's not even much prompting that we need to do, as you can see, and that's going to result in the follow-up email. All right, so let's set this up in Gumloop. Again, I'm a huge fan of Gumloop for AI native automations. So inside of my dashboard, we're just going to build this out from scratch. So I'm going to click on New Flow here, and we get our nice looking canvas. Now, again, we're going to trigger this with a Typeform, okay? So someone submits that form on our website. So I'm going to click that plus button to go to the node library. And Gumloop has a native integration here with Typeform that will trigger when we get a new response, okay? So I'm going to drag this node onto my canvas over here, and then just click the Typeform submission reader, okay? So this is what this node looks like. The first thing that I want to do is activate this as a trigger, so turn this on, meaning our automation will begin once the form is submitted. Now, for Typeform, if you don't have an account, obviously you're going to have to set up your own account, and we can walk through setting up a basic form in Typeform. Okay, so this is my completed form, but inside of Typeform, this is my dashboard. I'm just going to do a new form over here. I'm going to start from scratch, and then the first bit that I selected was this contact info here, which has first, last, email, and company. And for phone number, I did not include the field on my example, but I made the first name required, the last name required, the email required, and the company name required as well. So this was my first piece that I added to my form. And then just the second piece that I added was a short text. And I just said, what do you need help with? Now, obviously, if you were setting this up on your website as a true client intake form, you would get more specific with your questions. You would ask more questions. You would ask for more information. This is just a demo video to show you how to set it up in Typeform. You can publish this, okay? And then you need to embed this on your website. I'm not going to get into those steps. I use WordPress, but you can embed this on Shopify or Webflow or wherever you're hosting your site. You can see I've embedded my form on my WordPress site here, so it looks like this. Now that you have your form created on Typeform, you need to link your account to Gumloop, and the way you do that is you just go up to your profile here, you go to View Personal Settings, and then you go to Credentials, and you can either add it directly from here, or if you're using it directly on your canvas, you'll be prompted to connect your Typeform account to Gumloop. It takes about 30 seconds. It's really, really easy. And once you have your Typeform account connected to Gumloop, you'll be able to access your workspace, right? The My Workspace, and you'll be able to access your forms that you've created, right? So I'm using my new lead form, but you'll see all the forms that you've created here once you've synced your account. And then for fields, we can just leave that blank and we can hit save. Now for fields, we want to grab the two questions that we asked, right? So we had the fill in your details with the first name, last name, email, and company. And we also had that second question, which is what you need help with. So in the fields section over here, again, you can refresh just to make sure you're grabbing it. Now, we want to grab both of these outputs. So it's the fill in your details and what you need help with. So now you'll see in this node for the output that we can use these two responses to continue the flow in Gumloop. All right, so the next node that I want to add to my canvas here is an AI node that extracts the data. Okay, now if you think about it, this please fill in your details is only outputting as one item here. But when you go to our form, this actually contains 4 pieces of information. So it's outputting 4 chunks of information in kind of one output, which is not great when we're trying to pass individual pieces of information, for example, to our Airtable, right? We want to split up that text. And the way that we can do this in Gumloop is with the extract data AI. So I'm going to go to the node library, and you can see it's kind of already listed here for me under using AI and extract data. And I'm going to drag this down on my canvas, and I am going to pull in the please fill in your details output to the text input like that. Okay, so let's configure the extract data node. And again, we need to get all of the information from Typeform for this question. Okay, so we've got first name, last name, email, and company. So let's build out this extract data node. And the first thing that we're going to do is click add data. And what are we looking for first? Well, we want the first name. Okay, now all of this is very self-explanatory, so I'm not going to add any description, but if you wanted to give Gumloop more context, you could do that. Okay, so the first one is first name and the type is text. Let's add another one. I'm going to do last name, And again, the purpose of this node is to take all of that input from the first question and to extract it into 4 individual pieces of information. So we've got first name, we've got last name, we need email. So let me add another one by clicking add data. I'm going to name that email, and we're going to leave that one as text as well. And then the last field here is company. So let me just scroll down, another add data, call that one company. Leave that as text. Now the AI model, you can choose down here. I have my Anthropic key connected directly to Gumloop, so it doesn't cost me much to use my own API key. I'm going to use Claude 3.7 Sonnet here. And you can leave the additional context field blank, frankly, because it's the information that it's pulling out is very simple. If it was more complex, you could prompt it with more context. But now you'll see that our extract data node is going to pull out the first name, the last name, the email, the company that we can use in the email, that we can use in Airtable. And the next step is we're going to have to do a little text manipulation here for the email, right? So this will make sense the further that we get on in the flow, but I want to add a new node here, combine text. Okay, so under text manipulation, I'm going to select combine text over here. And you can see immediately that it's asking for input. So what text do we want to combine? Again, I'm going to be feeding this into the AI agent to write the email. So let me just set a little context here. When I'm sending a follow-up email to a new lead, right, they're going to submit their name and what they need help with. So when I follow up, I want to be able to say, hey, Mike, and then write a little bit of text and include some response about what they need help with, right? I want to acknowledge what they wrote. Oh, I need help with Facebook ads. So when I write the email, I need to be able to reference their first name, and I need to be able to reference what they need help with. And then I'm going to pass this on to the AI agent, who's going to pass that on to the Gmail node, okay? But in order to do that, we need to grab those 2 bits of information. And so I'm going to grab the first name from the extract data output, okay? So I'm going to drag this up here into input number 1. So now I have the first name, and input number 2 is going to be whatever they wrote in what do you need help with. So I'm going to drag that over to input 2. And again, I'm going to be feeding this output to the AI agent. So I want to give it a little bit of context. So I'm going to use this format box here, and I'm just going to write first name, colon, input 1, okay, which is, it's grabbing from the extract data node, okay? And then I'm going to say what they need help with, input 2. So the AI agent will have context, right? I'm not just giving it a name and then some text about Facebook ads. This is providing context to the agent that says the first name, Mike, what they need help with, whatever the response is, right? Needs help with Facebook's ads. That's the point of the combined text and the point of this format box over here. All right, next we need to add another AI node here to help us draft the email. So I'm going to come into Gumloop, go to the node library, and it's going to be this very first AI node, the Ask AI. I'm going to drag this onto my canvas. And what we're doing here is we're passing this combined text, which is the first name and the context, to the AI node here. And I'm going to ask it to write me or draft me the email text, okay? So the first thing that I want to do is drag this combined text over to the context, all right? So we're passing, again, the first name of the lead, and we're passing what they need help with. All right, now that the AI has all that context, we're going to prompt it to draft an email. So let me just zoom in a little bit, and then I'll paste in my prompt here. So I'm saying, write a professional but warm email response. Use the following rules. Start with hi, first name, thank them for their interest, acknowledge their specific need problem. This is where the context comes in, and some other brief email rules that I've put here in the prompt. And you can select your model. Again, use whatever you want. I'm using Claude 3.7 Sonnet. And now this node is pretty much done. So what we want to do next is pass the output here to a Gmail node so it can send an email on our behalf. So I'm going to come over here to the node library, just search for Gmail, and I'm going to choose the Gmail sender node. And we're going to configure this first by passing the response from the Ask AI node, again, which is our email draft, to the body of the email, right? So this is going to be, the main text of the email. Now, what we need is a few other things. Subject, I am going to fill this in myself and just say, thank you for reaching out. You could pass a variable in here if you wanted to, but I'm going to hard code this in since it's going to be going to all new leads. Sender name, I'm definitely going to put my name in here, and we'll grab the recipient in just a second here, but this is an important option. Gumloop is going to default to the AI just saving this as a draft inside of Gmail in case you don't want it just firing off emails on its own automatically. For this demo, I'm going to turn this off so it actually does send the email. And then finally, for the recipient, okay, we're going to go back to our extract data. Remember, we pulled out all of the information from the lead form. So what we want is the email address that the lead left. And I'm going to put that in as the recipient. Okay, so we've got the body of our email, which is coming from our AI agent. We've got the recipient, which we just pulled in from the extract data. I put my own subject and I put my display name in here, and I turned save as draft off, send as HTML. You can get fancy if you want to prompt HTML, but this is a basic follow-up email, so I'm going to leave that turned off. Now for the final step in the automation, we want to configure Airtable, okay? Because we're going to write all of the responses from our lead form into our new lead database, and I'm going to use Airtable for this. So inside of Airtable, I'm just going to create a new from scratch, and we can rename it up here. I'm just going to call this leads 2, change the color if you want. And now we need to configure our columns to match the output in our form, okay? Because we want to send all of this information bit by bit to Airtable. So we need a first name, and I'll just go into and edit this field, call it first name, save that. And I just like to delete these other columns, just start from scratch in here. Now, the second column that we need is last name. So I'm just going to duplicate this field, rename it. Now, the third bit of information we need is the email address. So let me add a new column here. Email, just call it email. And then we want to grab the company name. So I'll add that as a single line text, call it company name. And then the last field that we're grabbing is what do you need help with? So we can anticipate this being a longer bit of text. So we'll grab a long text field, and we can just call it additional info and then hit create field. And now we've got, and I do like to delete some of these other rows in here. And now we've got our Airtable database set up that we can now sync up with Gumloop. All right, so let's feed this information into Airtable inside of Gumloop. Again, if you don't have your credentials set up, you can do it the same way that you did with Typeform. It takes just 2 seconds. But after you've got your credentials set up, let's go into the node library, and we are going to write to Airtable. So in Airtable, we'll grab the writer. Let's drag it down on the canvas over here. And again, once you are synced up with Airtable, what you'll see is all of your different bases. So I'm going to refresh here, and this one I think we called leads 2, and then I'm going to refresh there. Table should just be that first table. And then on columns, we're going to need to refresh as well because we need to get not these columns from a different table. Let me X out of that. But we want to grab the first name, the last name, the email, the company name, and the additional info. And as we grab those columns over here, you can see now we have them available for new inputs in the node. You also want to go down to writer mode over here, and we're going to add these as single rows. Let me just come up and save here. And what we need to do now is map all of these inputs, right? So we need to grab the inputs. So for the first 4, we can just grab them from the extract data node because it has everything that we need, okay? So it has our first name. I don't know if it's tough to see here because I'm kind of far down. Let me drag this up actually for you guys. and then zoom in. All right, so we're going to drag the last name to last name, email to email, and company to company name. Now, we do need this additional info to write into Airtable, and we're going to grab that all the way at the top from the Typeform submission, which is the what you need help with output. So let me grab this into additional info, and when I do that, our Airtable node should be all set. All right, I think we're good to test the flow now in Airtable. It's an empty database. I've cleared out my Gmail here. So again, let's go into the lead form. I filled out a little dummy data here, Tom Smith, Shopify agency, and then what you need help with. I got this from Grok. It's actually a longer answer. And I'm going to submit this. And what we should see happen, this is running through Gumloop right now. It's processing the automation, is that info is going to run through and eventually get pulled into Airtable over here. And there we can see it populate right inside of Airtable, right? So Tom Smith, we've got the email, we've got the company name, and then we've got this additional info, which is, as I said, I put a little more info in here, a Shopify ads agency, yada, yada, yada. So you can see it went into Airtable just fine. And I should have mentioned, if you want to check your run, and you'll see it just pop into my Gmail right there, you can always go to gumloop.com/history, and you can see all of your runs. So you can go to view run, and you'll see everything that happened kind of behind the scenes over here. So it's going to show you everything, all of the inputs, all of the outputs. So here is what happened inside of Typeform. Okay, so it's outputting the first, last, email, and company. And then here is the text that I filled in. That's going to get fed into our extract data, right? And it's going to take out the company. It's going to take out the email, the first and last name. And now we can see the Airtable writer, the combined text. Again, just go to gumloop.com/history, and you can check all of your runs. This is good for troubleshooting, and it's good for seeing exactly what's happening on the back end. So here's the Ask AI. Here's the context. Okay, remember I wanted to send the first name, and then, what did they need help with? And so the response is based on my prompts. Remember, we're doing hi, first name, and then I prompted it with an email message here with the context. So it's really neat that you can see the full run history, everything that happened in the flow. And again, this is good for if you're trying to deal with your errors as well. It's just in your history tab right over here. But again, we can see that it went through perfectly inside of Airtable. And when I pop into my Gmail, here is the email. So thank you for reaching out. Thanks for reaching out about your Shopify ads agency. I appreciate you sharing details, right? So all of this is context from the form submission. And again, you can prompt the AI to structure your email however you want. Everything is customizable here inside of Gumloop with the prompt. I just did a basic prompt to show you what's possible, but we've got the full email coming in as well. So this is a really good setup inside of Gumloop. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what other workflows you want to see me build out. And if you did enjoy the video, give me a like and subscribe to the channel.